Hello, everybody. This is Your Life, My Hands. Um, I'm going to be starting something new, and I want to explain a little bit of the reason why. Um, I've been told a few times in my life that I have a pretty decent voice, and that I probably could have done audiobooks, uh, just reading and other things like that. So that was something I've been told a few times in my life. I don't know if it's true or not. That's not really something for me to, feel because I think everyone kind of hates their own voice when they hear it recorded. But I wanted to give it a try. The other reason that I am doing this is because I have an ability to read really quickly, and I enjoy reading quite a bit, but I also have a problem where I can read, pick up literature, pick up things, and understand context is very quick reader, and I can process all that. But when I occasionally will begin trying to speak about the subjects or talk about them, I really do fumble over my words, and I have some troubles speaking clearly and not messing up words and saying things wrong when I'm speaking probably too quickly, especially about subjects that I know and that I'm familiar with and I'm comfortable with. My speech isn't always the best. So, in order to do this, I wanted to try to make like a verbal audiobook style. And the theory for me is that if I do this, I may be able to pick up a little bit better speech and abilities to speak a little more clearly and pronounce things right and such. So this is obviously not professional, of course, but this is a something I've been thinking about for a little bit, and I've wanted to try. I also just recently got a Blue Yeti microphone, and I figured I'd put it to some good use if I can. So, once again, this is not professional. I will misspeak. I will mispronounce words and other things like that. But that's just the process of getting better at this, I suppose. So, I'm going to read a single chapter from a book, and then if there's anyone in the comments or anyone who actually enjoys this kind of thing, or thinks it's a good idea, wants to hear more, please tell me what you think should happen, what kind of things that you would expect to see from an audiobook, or I'm sorry, expect to hear from an audiobook, and what I could do to change to make it a little bit better. So I'm going to be reading from a book called A Land Remembered. And I'm from Florida, and it's a nice little chilly day out there in Florida, and this book was a pretty big part of my childhood, mainly because it was required reading, and along with, I believe it was The Yearling, which was kind of a big Florida-based book. I believe that was by Marjorie Kinnan Rawlins. But A Land Remembered was also right up there with that. And it was like a Florida history style book. A Land Remembered was written by Patrick D. Smith, and it just tells tales of older Florida and their family lineage, history, and so forth. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. This will be Chapter 1, Miami, Florida, 1968. The silver Rolls Royce glided off the Key Biscayne as smoothly as a dolphin cutting the green water of the bay. Solomon McIvy sat in the back seat, staring intensely at each house they passed, at the spotless manicured lawns, as if seeing these things for the first time and last time. As they neared the causeway, he muttered, "For what this one island is worth today, my papa could have bought the whole damn state back in 1883, when I was born. For folks have gone as crazy as Betsy bugs." "That's right, Mr. McIvy," the driver agreed. "They've all gone plumb crazy." When they came to a park bordered by the stately royal palms, the old man squinted his tired eyes at the entrance sign. Solomon McIvy Park. Then he leaned forward, shook the driver's shoulder, and said, "You see that, Arthur? Bought that 15 acres back in '09 for $47.50. Can you imagine it? And some folks thought I'd be skinned for paying that much. Bet not one damn soul who uses the park can say who Solomon McIvy is, or could care less. Probably cuss me as some Empire building bastard who stole everybody blind back in the old days and gave this park to salve his consciousness. The black driver nodded in agreement as he turned from the Rickenbacker Causeway and headed up Brickell Avenue. You sure you want to go through with this, Mr. McIvy? He asked, knowing that the answer would be but feeling he should ask again. Knowing what the answer would be, but feeling he should ask again for the last time. I could turn around and go back right now if you will change your mind. I'll not change my mind, McIvy grunted, and there'll be no turning back. I don't want to see that big house again. Not ever. Not a single McIvy died in a fancy place like that, and I'll be damned if I'm going to be the first. We'll go to Punta Rasa as planned. But first, I want you to drive up Miami Beach. I want to see it one more time. Yes, sir, Mr. McIvy. I'll turn across the MacArthur Causeway. As they crossed the causeway, they could see cruise ships making their way into the port, their masts decorated gaily with multicolored banners. Then the rolls turned left onto Collins Avenue, and they moved slowly up South Miami Beach. The streets here were lined with shabby, run-down apartments and hotels, porches filled with old people sitting in cane-bottomed chairs, staring at nothing, some asleep and others perhaps even dead, and as yet unnoticed, men and women who had retired from the harsh climate of the north ended up trapped in the rocco world of South Miami Beach. It ain't nothing but a walking cemetery, McIvy said, staring through heat waves that already drifted up from the sultry sidewalks. Should be turned back to the gulls and terns. As they continued up Collins Avenue, it suddenly changed, as if boundary lines had been drawn across the island. The beach now lined with majestic hotels, one after another, interspersed in towering condominiums, a concrete and glass canyon blocking the view of the ocean except for those willing to pay to see it from a balcony. And then they came up to La Florida Hotel, sitting like a stuffed frog, rising boastfully above all of them, 30 stories, with the letter MCI blazoned across its top. The old man said, I hope someday the son of a bitch gets blown down. I should have never built it in the first place. From this point north, the avenue was lined with motels and cocktail lounges, and fast food emporiums and souvenir stores with their display windows stuffed with junk, some of it authentic Florida souvenirs made in Hong Kong. McIvy then said, That's enough, Arthur. I'd rather try to remember it like it was when I first saw it. Get us off of here at the very next exit. The driver turned left into Julia Tuttle Causeway leading to the mainland. The old man said, You know who Julia Tuttle was, Arthur? No, sure. I sure don't. Hell, I do. My mama visited her first time we came here in 1895, a few months after the big freeze. She lived in a part of old Fort Dallas. I think Mama and her had tea together, or maybe it was fruit juice. When the freeze killed everything in Florida except for here, Julia Tuttle sent Old Man Flagler some orange blossoms up to Palm Beach just to show him that they were still blooming at Fort Dallas. And that's how come he ran his railroad on down to Miami, because the freeze didn't kill the orange trees. Mama liked her, but she never got to see her again. And I'll bet old Julia Tuttle would throw a tissy fit if she could see what this causeway leads to now. She'd probably want her name off of it. They turned left again on the mainland, cruising down Biscayne Boulevard, its northern section jammed with more motels and junk food shops, service stations, massage parlors, porno movies, bars, adult bookstores, and sidewalks empty in the early morning sun but teeming at night with prostitutes and junkies and widows and professional muggers. Then they came to the downtown business section of Miami, passing the McIvy State Bank building with the letters MCI across the front entrance. Then Bayfront Park with more windows and junkies and panhandlers and muggers. The driver slowed and said, What do you want me to do now, Mr. McIvy? Head out Highway 41? Not quite yet, he responded. Before we leave, I want to see one more thing. I want you to drive through the area where they had the riot. What? The driver questioned, not sure if he had heard right. How come you want to do that? I've heard it's not over yet. Damn it, you heard me, Arthur, the old man snapped. I want to see. Drive through there. Yes, sir, Mr. McIvy, he responded, shaking his head in disagreement but following orders. He turned left at the next intersection, followed another boulevard, and soon they came to an area of gutted buildings, boarded up storefronts, and burned automobiles not yet removed from the streets. People standing idly along sidewalks stared with hospitality as the rolls ambled by. They did a pretty good job of it, McIvy commented as they moved out of the area. This isn't the end of it. You mark my words, Arthur, there'll be more. And the next one will be even worse. You bring this many different kinds of people together, it's like throwing wolves and panthers into a pen full of cows. The fur never stops flying. As they moved slowly through the congested traffic to the lower Tamami Trail, I think that's right. Tamami Trail? I'm sorry, I'm not sure about that one. The old man shook the driver's shoulder again and said, You know, Arthur, I don't know why some folks are so shocked by the riot. Hell, this whole state was born of violence. You can't go anywhere without stepping on the skull of some man or animal that was killed. The whole damn place is littered with bones. The driver had heard it all before, but he listened attentively as the old man continued. What I haven't seen myself, I've read about. During these past 14 years I've holed up in that house alone, I've read enough books to fill up Biscayne Bay. I know about those bloodthirsty Spanish conquistadors who came here with their crosses and killed everything in sight in the name of Christianity. Narvaez cut off the nose of Chief Osita and set greyhounds on the chief's mother, and stood there and watched as the dogs ate the old woman alive, declaring it a miracle of Christ. They eventually wiped out all the Indians, the Tumakins, Ayes, Caluzas, Apalaches, Jingas, Tecastas. I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce all those names. Menendez lopped off the heads of 200 Frenchmen who came here, and he did it because they were Huguenots. A British general named Moore took a sweep down here from South Carolina 250 years ago and killed over 6,000 cows and 7,000 Indians just for the hell of it. The Seminoles went through it 3 times, and the third war with them was started because some men in an army survey got bored and used old Billy Bowlegs pumpkins for target practice. After they shot up his pumpkins, they pulled up his beans and squash and chopped down his banana trees, and when he complained to them for what they had done, they told him if he didn't like it, he could stick it. And there it went again, another war. And there ain't no telling how many men in my papa's times was bushwhacked or knife-gutted or hung on account of fighting over wild cows. Then later it was over the land itself and the putting up of fences. It went on and on. It hasn't stopped, and most likely never will. You won't find the name of McIvy in history books, Arthur. But they were right in the thick of it. And I mean the thick. We scattered a few bones, too. Yes, sir, Mr. McIvy. I know what you say is the truth. By now they had left the city and entered the Everglades with its endless stretches of open sawgrass dotted with distant hammocks of hardwood and palm. The road and both shoulders were littered with the decaying bodies of small animals struck by automobiles. Buzzards flapped out of the way as the car approached and then returned to the carnage as soon as it passed. Soon they came to the Miccosukee Indian Reservation bordering the highway, the area lined with airboat rides and tourist village and craft stores, and after this they entered the Big Cypress Swamp. The road here was stained even worse with the blood and guts of more small animals crushed flat into the steaming asphalt. The old man studied the passing landscape carefully. Slow down, Arthur, so I can get my bearings, he cautioned. It's been a while since I've been here. After another 3 miles, he said, turn right at the next dirt trail. The tires of the Rolls-Royce made a crunching sound as it guided slowly across the sandy roads, heavily lined with palmetto and pond cypress. A mother raccoon with her brood of babies scurried out of the way as they made a sharp turn and came to the edge of a clearing. McIvy said, stop here and wait. It could be we'll have another passenger. Several chickie huts were spaced at random around the clearing, and beneath one of them an old woman stirred a cooking pot with a wooden spoon. McIvy approached her and said, I'm looking for Toby Cypress. Without speaking, she pointed towards a chickie at the far side of the clearing. McIvy hesitated for a moment, looking around the Seminole village, remembering the first time he had come here over 70 years ago, seeing that nothing had changed except faces. When he walked to the chickie, he found an old man sitting beside it, his hair solid white, his sun-baked skin as wrinkled as a cypress bark. He seemed to be asleep, as McIvy said, Toby Cypress? The old Indian squinted and said, Yes, I am Toby Cypress. What is it you wish of me? Don't you know who I am? Toby Cypress pushed himself up and looked closer. And he smiled. Sol McIvy. It has been many decades now, and age has ravaged both of us. But I would still know you. It's only a McIvy who is so tall and lanky. Sit here with me, and tell me why you have come back to the village after all this time. McIvy settled himself into the ground in front of Toby Cypress and said, You haven't changed so much, Toby. Do you still ride a marsh tacky like the wind? No, Sol. I have not been on the horse for so long that I don't remember. All I do is sit with the chickie like an old woman. I am growing tired of it. We sure used to ride, didn't we? McIvy said, remembering fondly. And then we had some good times together, too. I've thought of them often. And I've kept track of you throughout the years, although I haven't been back here. I know you served for a long time as tribal leader and did many good things for your people. Yes, this is so. We now have 2 reservations, but I've never lived there. I would rather stay here in the swamp where I belong. But many of my people live there, and we have cattle once again. But tell me, why have you come back now like a ghost from the past? I'm on my way to Punta Rasa to live my last days at the cabin Papa built there. I left my house in Miami and will never return to it. I would rather see things as they once were. There is no more Punta Rasa as you know it, Toby Cypress said, his eyes reflecting sadness. It's all gone, Sol. Just as Lake Okeechobee, as we once knew, is gone. The custard apple forest is gone, and the bald cypress trees are gone. You are trying to capture the fog, and no one can do that. The cabin is still there, as good as ever, and the land too. I came to ask you to go with me. We can hunt, and fish, and plant a garden, and be close like we once were. Toby Cypress picked up a stick and scratched in the dirt. And then he said, there is a Seminole legend that says when an old man knows he is going to die, he goes off alone into the woods, searching for a place of his birth. Is that what you are doing now, Sol? I will make the same journey very soon, but we must do it in our own way. I cannot go with you to Punta Rasa. I suppose not, Toby, but I just thought I'd ask. I do want to part with you this last time as friends and as a brother, like it used to be. I'm sorry we broke away in anger those many years ago. I am sorry too, and I am no longer angry at you for destroying the land as you did. But Sol, it could have never been different with us. We are brothers only because we had the same father. My mother was a Seminole and yours white, and we were born to live in different worlds. There was no other way. We have each lived our lives as we have to, and now we depart in different ways. But know this, Sol, I have always loved our father, Zek McIvy, just as my mother loved him, and I have loved you too, and I have no hatred for you. I have no hatred in my heart. Believe this now, and we will go in peace. That's what I wanted to hear, McIvy said, his face relieved. I have no children, Toby. I am the last of the McIvys. It ends with me, and that is my biggest regret from the way I messed up my life. But McIvy blood runs on in the veins of your sons, and I want you to know I'm proud of this. Papa would be proud too. And there's another thing I want you to know. All the land I still own that hasn't been turned into concrete, and there is a great deal of it, including the land south of Okeechobee and along Kissimmee River, I am turning it into a preserve where the animals can live again as they once did. That is good, Toby Cypress replied, pleased. But do it soon before there are no more birds in the sky and no more creatures on the land. It is already done, and all the money I leave behind will be spent to buy more land for preserves. It is the last I can do now to make up for the bad things I've done in the past. Things I'm not proud of, Toby. And there's a great deal of money to do this, more than you can imagine. He then got up and said, it is time for me to go now, Toby. We won't see each other again, so I'll say farewell and happy hunting. Toby Cypress pushed himself up slowly and he grasped McIvy's hand. Goodbye, Sol, brother. We are both part of a time that is no more, and it is good that it ends soon for both of us. I hope you capture the fog and find a small part of it again on your last days. The 2 old men stood facing each other, Solomon McIvy gripping the wrinkled brown hand tightly, and he turned and walked away. He did not look back as the Rolls retraced its way down the sandy trail. Just before noon, they came to the southern outskirts of Naples and into a logjam of traffic, cars and trucks moving slowly bumper to bumper, impatient drivers blaring horns and shaking fists at each other in anger. Both sides of the highway were lined solidly with fast food joints and service stations and shopping centers. When they stopped at a traffic light, the driver said, "You want me to stop now and get something to eat, Mr. McIvy? And it's time for your pill." "Damn the pill," McIvy snapped. "And we'll wait till we get there to eat. All we do here is choke to death on carbon monoxide." The trip became slower and slower until they finally turned from the main highway and followed the 2-lane road leading towards the Gulf. It skirted the south bank of the Caloosahatchee River and then turned back inland. Once again, the rolls glided down the sandy road lined with palmetto, and presently they came to a locked gate. After opening the gate, the driver moved the car into the 150-acre jungle of cabbage palms and hickory and oak surrounded by a cyclone fence topped with 3 strands of barbed wire. The cabin, located in the center of the forest, was made of cypress boards, weathered black but still sturdy and well preserved. The open area around was freshly mowed. At the edge of the clearing, directly by the cabin, there was an outhouse and a storage shed. McIvy got out of the car and said, "The cabin is older than I am, Arthur, but still as good as it was when Papa built it. They don't make lumber like that no more. And this is one piece of land that'll never feel the bite of a bulldozer blade. I've seen to that." As soon as everything had been carried inside, McIvy said, "Fetch us a couple of cans of beans and some beer, Arthur. We'll eat at the table out here." The driver hesitated and said, "You know you're not supposed to drink beer, Mr. McIvy. You still haven't taken a pill. I put your pill bottle on the stand next to your bed." "You can just take the damn thing back to Miami with you," the old man said defiantly. "I'm not taking any more pills, and I'm not having some damn crabby nurse hovering over me all the time, telling me what I can eat and drink and what I can't. Why the hell do you think I came up here?" The driver said gently, trying to calm the old man, "I'm just trying to help, Mr. McIvy. You've done had 2 heart attacks, and you know what the doctor said about the pills." "I know what he said, and I don't want to hear another damn word about it. Now you go on and fetch us something to eat like I said." "Yes, sir, Mr. McIvy." The two of them sat at a cypress table facing each other, eating from the cans with spoons. McIvy took a huge bite, washed it down with the beer, and said, "That's good, Arthur. Nothing more fitting for a man than beans, but the doctor says I can't eat them no more, 'cause too much gas. I'll have them again for breakfast in the morning. Hell, I've eaten enough beans to bury the doctor, and I'm still here. I'll bet I'm the only 85-year-old cracker left with all his own teeth. Wasn't for this bad heart, I could go another 85 years, but I wouldn't want to. Not with the way things are now. I've seen too much as it is. My papa and my grampy would have had strokes if they could see what's happened since they left. That road we came over today, Arthur, with the fancy name of Tamanami Trail, before it was finished back in 28, it took 10 days to cross the Everglades to Miami. We made the same trip this morning in 3 hours. But my papa wouldn't want to see it. He'd rather go by horse and canoe and take the 10 days. He'd say, "Hell, what's the god-awful hurry?" He'd suddenly change the subject. "How long you been working with me for me, Arthur?" The black man scratched his gray temple and tried to think, counting on his fingers. He suddenly said, "About 30 years, Mr. McIvy. Ever since I wandered into your place, broker than a haint, and you gave me a job tending the yard. You like to drive that Rolls, don't you?" "Yes, sir, I do. It beats those clunkers we had back in the day during the war. But they was all we could get then." "Well, that one is yours now. I've already had the title changed. You can do whatever you want with it." Surprise flashed into Arthur's face, and then pleasure. "I rightly thank you, Mr. McIvy. I never thought I'd own a car like that, but you didn't have to do it." "I know I didn't have to," McIvy shot back. "A man my age don't have to do anything, including worrying about what he puts in his belly. I did it because I want to. I've also set up a trust fund in your name that will give you all the money you need for the rest of your life. The attorney will tell you about it when you get back to Miami. You can take off that damn chauffeur suit whenever you want and throw it right into the middle of the Biscayne Bay. You can go down to the Social Security office and tell them to kiss your butt." "Good. Lord God, thank you, Mr. McIvy," Arthur exclaimed, his voice trembling. He then reached over and grabbed the old man's hand. "I was worried sick about what I'd do when you left. I don't know what to say, Mr. McIvy." "Then don't say nothing. And don't get carried away and slobber on me. I can't stand to see a man slobber. It's about time you headed back to Miami." They got up and walked to the car together. McIvy said, "You can come back in a week and bring more grub and beer too. The groundskeeper is out here every morning checking on things, so don't worry about me. And don't tell a damn soul where I am. You understand?" "Yes, sir. I understand. I won't tell a soul." He suddenly grabbed McIvy, hugged his frail body tightly, and said, "I thanks you again, Mr. McIvy. God bless you." "Damn, Arthur," the old man roared. "I done told you not to slobber on me. Now get." He watched briefly as the Rolls turned around and headed back along the sandy land. He muttered, "Folks nowadays think an old man can't take care of himself and make it alone. I never knew a McIvy to need a nursemaid, and I don't either. Hell, I throw them pills out for the buzzards to eat." He then went inside the cabin and slammed the door. That's the end of chapter 1. One of the favorite things I would say about A Land Remembered is a little bit of the historical side of Florida. And I mean, to me, it's more personable to me because I live in Florida. I've been down to Miami, I've been down to these areas. And it's always really interesting to hear the old stories about it. You know, my parents, grandparents have been in Florida for a long time. They weren't obviously, like born and raised, but they had moved here way back in the day before Disney and other things. And they got to really, really see Florida before Florida became what it is now. And a lot of those statements resonate in there, about it being like a cemetery and age and all this different stuff. And it's something that sticks with me a little bit. So, anyways, that was chapter 1 of A Land Remembered. If you like that book, just let me know, and I'll make another chapter. I'd like to think I could get better at this. I'd like to think I could do better. If you have suggestions, please let me know. That would be great for me to improve upon myself and my ability to speak. That's really why I'm doing this. And if you guys get the benefit of having unprofessional audiobook being made, then I hope that that's something you guys will enjoy. So anyways, thank you very much, and let me know whatever you want me to read next or hear or do whatever. I'm open to suggestions. Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later.